Hey, welcome back. We're doing another really fun episode of Pages Promotions, our virtual Autumn Book Festival 2020. We are a production of Indie Reads TV, and we find our home on CNM TV in Troy, Michigan. They are super cool to support us, and we can't say enough nice things about them. Today, we are going to be talking with D.A. Reed. For those of us in the know, her name is Deborah. And she writes some really fascinating, really edgy your seat kind of stuff. I got to read an art copy of her piece today, and yeah, you guys are in for a treat. So, oops, see, there we go, technology. Thanks everybody for coming back. I'm still working out the bugs in my technology here. I'm really happy to see everybody in the Zoom room tonight. This is going to be a blast. If you like what you see today, tell your friends. We're doing this every day of the month all through October. So tell your friends, come back and see the rest of the authors. We're having a blast here. If you can't watch it live, you know it always shows up on YouTube within a day or two. And then again, CNM TV is hosting us in the month of November and beyond. So check that in your local listings. Deborah, welcome to the room. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Can you give us just a little background bio about who you are and how you started on this writing journey?
Well, I am a wife and mother and a writer, and I actually started writing back in elementary school. I think my first story was about a cat who got lost because it was chasing a leaf and how it had to find its way home. And I wrote my first novel when I was 14. And then revamped it when I was in my 20s. And that was kind of like the start of actually truly writing, because I know that for me, writing always felt like one of those dreams that just, it's really unattainable. And like being an author and that type of thing. And it's like, well, no, if I really want it, I need to work at it and just do it. And so I did. The ideas kept coming and people kept reading them and saying, you should write more. And I've always loved the suspense mystery genre. Then got into the young adult, more inspirational when I came across some people who just really inspired me and who I wanted to kind of help with my writing if that was possible. And here I am. Hi, Charlie.
Sorry, Charlie is very excited you're here tonight. So here you are. When you come back later in the month to do your longer interview, I'm just making a mental note to talk to you about these the workshops that you could do with kids. So I want to talk about that. So we'll talk about that when you come back. So everybody who's interested in getting your kids into writing, make sure you come back later in the month. We'll talk about that. It's called the Adventure something. What is that, Deborah?
Author Quest?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Author Quest. Yeah, I knew there was an A in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I just remembered the logo, and it always reminds me of like this really adventurous thing going on. So that's why I always think of it as adventure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super fun. So tell us about the new book. This is launch day for you. This is the third in your trilogy, correct?
Yes, this is third in my trilogy. This is When Death Whispered Her Name. And so the first one is When Darkness Killed Her. And it introduces Caitlin O'Reilly, who is a police officer, and her father is a private investigator. And her father is killed right in front of her, and she realizes that he was killed because he had gotten the lead on her kidnapper. She was kidnapped when she was 13, along with her best friend, and they never had found out who had done it. And so now she realized her father had kind of a lead on that. So it's kind of like her story. She decides to take over the firm, decides to find out what really happened. This one kind of ends with, it's not a super big cliffhanger, but then we go into When Vengeance Reigned. This one ends on a really big cliffhanger. So you definitely need to kind of read them in order.
Okay, that's good to know. Read these in order.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in this one, it kind of is like a different storyline. She's still at the firm. You still have the same people. The relationships kind of progress and that type of thing. But then she finds out that there are a bunch of secrets about her family that she didn't realize. One of them being that she has a brother who is trying to kill everyone that she loves. So.
Okay, awesome. And then the third book, set it up for us, and then you just go right ahead in with your reading. I'll give you about 10 minutes or so to do your reading, and then we'll come back for Q&A. How's that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
So this basically, at the end of this book, her brother is still at large. One of her employees and friends has flatlined. You find out another employee and friend is getting mysterious emails and all that kind of stuff. So it was really hard for me to kind of choose what to read without really giving anything away. But I'm just going to read chapters 3 and part of 4 because this is where her brother has kind of like lain dormant over about a month. And so they don't really know what's going on with him or what he's thinking or what's going to happen next. So here we go, starting with chapter 3. Again, I apologize if I'm sitting weird. It's my cat.
Okay, hold on just 1 second before you start. I just want to let everybody know that the reading today is going to be PG-13. So if you have very young children in the room, this might not be a great one for them to watch, but it's not anything more than PG-13. So just to let you know that walking in, but it's a compelling read. So I wanted to include it with that disclaimer. Go ahead, Deborah, it's all yours.
Okay. Caitlin squinted behind her sunglasses, the sun overly bright as punishment, she was sure, for overindulging the night before. Her head pounded, her throat was dry as desert sand, and she was exhausted from a fitful night's sleep on the couch. She needed coffee, lots of coffee. The small parking lot of Sally's sweet shop was jammed with vehicles, causing Caitlin to swear vehemently as she tried to find a place for the Challenger. If it had been any other day, she would have left and found a coffee shop closer to the firm. But this was one of those mornings where she wasn't going anywhere without coffee. A small red Volvo backed out of its spot just as Caitlin approached. Sighing with relief, she whipped the Challenger into the vacant spot and stepped out onto the pavement, still narrowing her eyes against the sun's glare. Once inside the door, the smells of coffee and an assortment of sugary confections enveloped the PI, causing her mouth to water. She hadn't been able to stomach breakfast that morning. Keeping her sunglasses on to shield her eyes from the bright fluorescent lights and the patrons from her bloodshot eyes, Caitlin wandered to the back of the very long line waiting to be served. Voices rose and fell in conversation, coffee machines letting out hisses and burps as the baristas hurriedly made frothy drinks for the herd of caffeine addicts salivating at the counter. Caitlin felt her shoulders relax slightly. Coffee and an eclair. That's what she needed to boost her energy. The line inched forward, and Caitlin glanced around while she waited. The sweet shop opened only a few months ago, but had quickly become a Healy favorite. It was always crowded, which meant Caitlin had only graced Sally's with her presence a couple of times. In those few visits, however, the PI could see why it was so popular. They made excellent coffee. Her head increased its pounding cadence, and Caitlin began to shift irritably. Either Sally needed to hire more workers or find a way to make coffee faster, because Caitlin needed caffeine in short order, or the dark side of her nature would be revealing itself very soon. Dwelling on her caffeine withdrawal was what caused her to miss it. The man with the blue ball cap midway up the line had pulled a gun and wrapped his arm around the neck of the woman in front of him before Caitlin registered the commotion as something she should be paying attention to. The man fired a round into the ceiling, white plaster raining down, the noise deafening in the small shop. That woke Caitlin up, along with everyone else. Jarred from her languid hangover musings, Caitlin reached for the gun at her shoulder as the patrons of Sally screamed and dove for cover. Not a good idea. The man's steely eyes suddenly locked with those of the PI, his gun trained on her chest. The woman clenched against his chest, sobbed, terror in her wide eyes. Caitlin halted her movements, hand frozen in place and hovering near her shoulder. Her eyes narrowed behind her sunglasses as she began clicking rapidly through options. It didn't take her long to realize she had none. Hands in the air. Caitlin obeyed, but kept them at shoulder height in case there was a chance to go for her weapon. "Everyone out," the man roared, firing another round into the air. The woman held captive against his chest flinched, letting out an involuntary scream that mimicked those of the crowd now rapidly departing Sally's sweet shop. The coffee suddenly wasn't so popular. Caitlin didn't move, hoping there would be an opening, but the man wasn't giving her anything to work with. The shop cleared out in seconds. The gunman didn't seem surprised to see Caitlin still standing mere feet away. "Caitlin O'Reilly, I presume?" A twisted smile pulled at the man's lips. The PI fought to keep the surprise from her face. Shock, really, that he knew her name. Instead, she focused on the details before her. The woman wasn't much older than Caitlin herself, dressed in slacks and a nice shirt, probably on her way to work. Her handbag had fallen at her feet, wallet, keys, and makeup creating a river of the woman's life across the coffee shop floor. A large diamond winked from the hand clutching the arm around her throat. "What do you want?" Caitlin shifted her attention to the man who had suddenly and unequivocally ruined her morning. Her mind began cataloging the details. Blue ball cap, tan Carhartt jacket over a white t-shirt and jeans. Her eyes narrowed at the combat-style boots. That didn't jive with the rest of the image. His eyes were shadowed beneath the bill of the cap, dark stubble lining his jaw. "You." The man's lips pulled into a smile that made Caitlin's skin crawl. "Then let her go," Caitlin said, not missing a beat. But you're just the audience," the gunman said, equally swift with his reply. Caitlin's eyebrow arched. "This is quite the show, but I'm not impressed." "You should be." The smile never left his lips. The woman held captive whimpered, and Caitlin was suddenly done with the banter. "Let her go." She kept her voice hard, authoritative. "She's done nothing. Actually, she's everything." Caitlin felt her blood run cold. "Meaning?" "I have a message for you, from your brother." Panic took hold, Caitlin's hand twitching as it yearned for the weapon still holstered at her shoulder. She didn't want to ask, but she had to. The message would be delivered whether she asked or not. And the message would be, Caitlin ran her tongue over dry lips, this. And the man jammed his gun into the woman's side and pulled the trigger. "Charlie, I need you to track a gunman through surveillance cameras now." Caitlin ripped her jacket from her shoulders and pressed it against the wound, spilling blood onto the coffee shop floor, her knees slipping on the dark liquid as it spread over the tiles where she knelt. Her phone lay next to the dying woman. On speaker as Caitlin tried to bring the shooter to justice while simultaneously saving a woman's life, a woman who had simply wanted a cup of coffee that morning. "On it, boss. Where do I start?" "Sally's sweet shop on 23rd. There was so much blood. Caitlin couldn't find an exit wound, and she wasn't surprised. From the angle of the man's gun barrel, the bullet entered the woman's side, but most likely hit a rib and ricocheted through her upper body, ripping her apart. "What's your name? Tell me your name." Caitlin leaned over the woman, trying to get her to focus on anything other than the pain. Blood leaked from the corner of the woman's mouth, her eyes fighting to focus on Caitlin. Amy. Caitlin's jacket was drenched in blood, her hands turning red as the life-giving liquid continued to flow, despite the PI's efforts to stop it. "Amy, I need you to hang in there, okay? Help is coming." She prayed help was coming. Why couldn't she hear sirens? Amy's eyes rolled to the side, eyelids fluttering. "Amy," Caitlin said sharply. "Amy, you need to stay with me. Stay awake. You're married, right?" She forced herself not to look at the blood-smeared diamond on the woman's hand. "Do you have kids?" That got the woman's attention. Her eyes suddenly cleared, but it wasn't with the fight Caitlin had hoped to see. Amy coughed, blood spraying from her mouth to cover her chin and dot the front of her shirt. One hand rose, landing on Caitlin's pale blue shirt and leaving a streak of blood behind as it immediately fell back to the woman's chest, too weak to hold it in place. Bubbles of crimson liquid lined Amy's lips as she tried to speak, her gaze desperate. Then there was nothing, the young woman's body limp and no longer struggling, her head slowly listing to the side as her eyes went blank, pupils widening as death took hold. Caitlin sat back on her heels, covered in the blood of a woman who had died too soon. She could add Amy's name to the list of people who died simply from knowing Caitlin O'Reilly, or having the unfortunate luck of being in her presence. Hands clutching the ruined jacket still in her grasp, Caitlin's eyes slid closed as, for the millionth time in the last month, she vowed to kill Noah Jansen. Slowly rising to her feet, the PI stepped away from the prone body, finally hearing sirens draw close. Caitlin's boot hit something on the tile floor, and she looked down to see Amy's wallet, splayed open and displaying her Michigan driver's license, and a picture of the woman who lay broken and twisted on the coffee shop floor. Only this time very much alive, and with her arms around a small boy and girl, a handsome man at her side with a proud smile on his face. Amy Lawrence had been a wife and mother. Now she was gone. A family was torn apart, their lives shattered beyond repair. Her body heavy with a suffocating weight of guilt, Caitlin turned as the first emergency worker raced through the door.
Very good. Thank you very much. Yay. Wow, that was, I was really struck by your visual writing and the tension that you evoke so quickly in this book. I mean, we're talking chapter 2 here. And we've already got a mystery and a dead body. So kudos, you did a grand job with that. So everybody turn on your microphones. I would love if you guys could offer some comments and questions if you have any for Deborah. And we've got some time to have a conversation. Who would like to go first? Go ahead, Kate.
I am always here for a strong female protagonist. You got me sold. I'm trying it. I need to know what happens next, but I'm going to start with the first one.
Yay! Well, I hope you like it.
You're going to be hooked,
I
Kate.
think I will.
Kate, knowing what you write, you're going to be hooked. Absolutely.
I think so.
I'd say I really want to read yours, Kate. You totally had me hooked with yours, too.
Yeah, the two of
We should
you.
put our heads together at some point.
There you go.
Some point, get together, have a cup of coffee. It's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any comments or questions for Deborah?
I do. So do you have a 3-pack or a place to buy all 3? As a
Not yet. I am actually working on that. I have been talking. I have a marketing manager. He's actually just a really good friend who helps me out.
That's awesome.
And he and I have actually been talking about that and how to get that done. So it's kind of in process, but it's not available yet.
Awesome. Awesome.
well, that's okay. I'll
Just to let everybody know, if you go to our Facebook page later, you'll see a link to the book on the Facebook page, and you can always reach Deborah directly through her website as well. And we'll have that information on the Facebook page too. Any other questions, comments from anybody? Yeah, Amy.
It was really hard listening to Amy die with my name.
Oh,
This is a little rough.
I realized as I was reading it, I was like, oh, she feels her name differently if that's any consolation.
yeah. Yeah, it is
A little
spelled
close to
differently.
home there, but
Sorry. I would never kill you off, Amy, unless
good.
it's one of my short horror stories, but we won't go there yet.
Any other questions or comments for Deborah?
I have a comment.
Yeah, Jared.
Hi. I am not all that familiar with your series yet, or your characters, but just from the reading that you gave, I was taken back by the fact that you made the even though the relationship didn't appear to be there between the protagonist and the victim. I noticed right away that you gave her a name. And then as the description was there about how detailed it was, the fact that you named her, the fact that everything became so personal. Again, I haven't read the book, but at the same time, I can already tell, if you're going to build this this crime up to something that's really going to haunt your protagonist, to personalize her, the victim, that way. Was really, really strong, and it's good, and it's an example of writing done well. And I just think it's really fantastic, smart choices. It makes me become more involved in the internal conflict of the main character. So really nice, really fantastic. It was a pleasure to listen to.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that was when I read the arc last night. That was my big thing. Was it's I already know these people. It was very, very cool. It was very cool. Any other questions, comments?
Well, you know I'm a fan. I mean, so I'll just keep adding to the collection. Don't know if it'll end up back on the shelf. You've only got one there already, but
But I'm on the top shelf,
I
so
know.
I figure I can't move any higher, so I'm good.
yeah. But you'd like it if all of the books were yours up there, right?
Well, yes, I'll work on that.
Well,
You have to have
we
a
can't.
goal.
Well, Deborah, you can't expect perfection, just excellence, right?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very good. Always impressed.
Thank you.
Here's the
Well-
part that impresses me. I know you to be this really kind, gentle soul. You're very approachable. You're very cool to talk to. You're always smiling. And then you write this stuff. It harkens back to the conversation we had in another Zoom event where we are sometimes slightly schizophrenic in our writing.
Mhm.
Can
Well,
you give me, is there like some dark thing that happened in your life that allows you to tap in and write this stuff? Or do you just have that fun of an imagination?
I just have that fun of an imagination.
Very cool.
Well, and I think, because I've lost count of how many of the little old ladies at church come up to me and say, "You seemed like such a sweet girl."
Yeah. And your
I think-
children are so beautiful. What happened?
I think what it is for me is that my mom always told me, she's like, "You're empathetic, you're not just sympathetic. You put yourself in the place of other people and you feel what they're feeling." And so when I was watching, like crime shows or like MacGyver or, whatever, I always loved the action stuff the best versus like a romance or, something like that. But I would put myself in the place of the victims. I would put myself in the place of the family, and it just would get to me. I mean, like right to the heart. It was like it was happening to myself. And I think there's a certain part of me that just wants to create something that would make others feel that way too. Not necessarily like horror or sadness, but just to feel those emotions that strongly.
That resonating connection?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you do it very well.
Thank you. That means a lot.
It's true. I would not pretend. It really, it's good writing. I've been impressed with your work for a while, and yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, comments for Deborah? No?
I
Okay.
enjoyed the first book. I'm waiting to get the second and third.
See, Diana's hooked. Awesome. Anyone else? No? Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you guys some time this month to go find Deborah's book, and all three of them actually, and go out and buy them and read them, and then come on back for her next event later in the month where you can ask all those deep and probing questions of the author and her process. So we'll come back and do that at the end of the month. Deborah, I don't have my calendar. I should probably, well, no, too many of you. I don't have it memorized. Let's just admit it. I don't have the calendar memorized. Do you know when your next date is?
I think it's the 21st.
Okay, awesome.
In the evening again, like at 7.
Right. Okay. So for those of you who are like me and you can't remember the calendar, it's on the Facebook page. It's also on our website at pagespromotions.com. So you can see everything that's going on there. You can get access to our YouTube archive and all of the links. Deborah, thank you for coming and doing this reading. I'm just really pleased that you were able to take the time. Thanks everybody else for coming.
Thank you.
It's been super fun and super awesome. And I'm really, really pleased that we were able to take this time to meet so many of you. I'm going to try this technology thing once again. Let's see, can I do it? There she is. So remember, this is the face. Name is D.A. Reed. That's her pen name, but we know her as Deborah because we're friends now. And you can find her again with her book on our Facebook page at Pages Promotions. And we are Pages Promotions Virtual Book Festival Autumn 2020, a production of Indie Reads TV. Thank you again to CNM TV for giving us a home here in Troy. Thanks everybody for coming out. We had a blast tonight. I hope you did. I know I did. And we hope to see you again later in the month. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Deborah.
Bye.
Bye.